Creating videos with AI is one of the hottest topics right now, and the tools are getting much more powerful every single day. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a complete step-by-step guide on how to build a fully automated AI video generation workflow. The goal is to start with a single topic in Google Sheets and end up with a finished video. And just to show you a quick glimpse about what the finished product looked like, here's a video about Nikola Tesla.
Tesla invented technologies decades ahead of his time. But brilliance came at a cost. Tesla lived simply, lost investments, and died penniless in 1943. Today, he's remembered as the father of modern electricity, a true pioneer who lit up the world.
And then we also have Leonardo da Vinci.
Young Leonardo absorbed the beauty of nature, forming the foundation of his visionary mind. Apprenticing under master artist Andrea del Verrocchio in Florence, Leonardo flourished in art and technique.
These entire videos, the script, the images, the voiceover, and the final edits were all generated automatically. So by the end of this video, you will have the exact blueprint to build a full workflow for yourself and put your own content creation on autopilot. Now, before we get started, if you do find this video helpful, please make sure to like this video and consider subscribe for more content like this. So with that being said, if you're interested, let's get started. Alright, so to start here, you can see I'm at the n8n and I have already created a workflow called AI video generation. And the first step is basically have a trigger, right? So we have a trigger manually, and we're also going to connect a new node for Google Sheets. So we're going to fetch the video generation requirements from a Google Sheets. Now here you can see this is the Google Sheets for the AI video project characters. And here you can see we only have 4 columns. So the topic, reference, status, and the output. Now for the topic and reference, these are basically the video requirements that we want to pass to a large language model to generate. So these are the topics for the characters, and we also have the reference. So these are basically the data sources where the AI can be able to use that and be able to create the video project. And now here we also have the status. Now in terms of status, we have different options. So we have not started, pending, finish, air. And then the output column is going to be a link for the finished project of the video. Now, back to the Google Sheets. Let's start with the first step, which is to getting data from the Google Sheets. So I'm just going to get a row in the Sheets, and here I'm just going to select the document, and we're just going to have sheet number 1. So in terms of filter here, we're just going to select the status not started. And if I were to run this test case, I should be able to get 3 records. Awesome. So because I only want to return 1 item at a time, and here I'm just going to click on add options and click on return only first matching row. And if I were to turn this on and run this test case again, you can see we only have 1 item returned back to us. So that's all the data that we need to start a workflow. So here I'm just going to pin this data, and let's move on to the next step. And the next step is basically to create our AI scriptwriter. So here you can see I have gone ahead and basically create our AI agents for the scriptwriter. And basically what happened is we have our Google Sheets, which will return us the topic and the reference, and the data is going to send to the AI scriptwriter. We're going to use this AI scriptwriter to generate the script for each scene in the video. So let's click into this AI agents and be able to see what it does. So right away, you can see that inside our AI agents, so this is basically the user prompt, which I wrote. And if we were to click into it, you can see that we have the topic, the reference URL from the Google Sheets. And then here you can see I specify the task as well as the content guidelines for the AI scriptwriter to create. So here you can see we have the script, which generate exactly 10 scenes, and the total script length must be this much words. And then here the requirements that the scene 1 must be strong, attention grabbing hook. And then there's also image prompts. For each prompt must be detailed and ready for an AI image generator. And then here's also the settings we want to include. And then there's also varieties for the camera angles, the shots across the 10 scenes. Okay, so once we have the instructions, we also set a specific output format, which I will talk about it in a second. And then here you can see we also have the system message. And then if we were to close this, you can see that I have connected the chat model with this AI agents. And of course, feel free to use whatever chat model that works best for you. But for me here, you can see that I'm using the GPT-4o for the chat model. And then here you can see the AI agent also connected with a tool. And here you can see the tool calls fetch URL as summary. So what this tool does is basically trigger another workflow, which I create, and it's going to crawl the data or crawl the content of the page and summarize it and extract the useful information for the scriptwriter so that the scriptwriter knows exactly what information we need to write the script, right? So you can see here that basically if we were to click into this workflow, this is the description, right? So, and the description basically tells the AI agent what this tool does, which we can see here that this tool basically accepts the URL as inputs and it uses the Firecrawl extract feature to generate the directory summary. And here for the workflow input, you can see that it takes the URL, and I basically let the large language model here to decide on the inputs. Now here is basically the sub workflow that I was talking about, which is using Firecrawl to extract the data and summarize the content. So here you can see the workflow starts here, which you can see here that it takes the URL as the input. Then we pass the URL string into the Firecrawl extract. Because this request might take time to process, we can be able to enter a while loop, wait 10 seconds, get the results. If it's still empty or still processing, then we're going to continue loop through the while loop until we get the data as a result. And if you were to look at the fields, you can see that we only have summary, which is the summary of the entire website. That's basically the sub workflow. And let's go back to the main workflow and see how the rest works. So here, back to the main workflow, you can see we also have the structure output parser. And you can see here we have scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and all the way down to scene 10. And each scene has the script and the image prompt. So once we have all those things, we also are going to split out the data, but we will get into that in a second. But let's run the workflow and see how this works. So here you can see I trigger the workflow. It starts to fetch the data from the workflow here. And after it fetches the data, it's going to pass it to the large language model to write the script. Okay, so now you can see the workflow is completed. So if I were to click into the AI agents, you can see that this is the output data, right? So basically we have scene 1, script, image, scene 2, script, image. Okay, but the problem here is that you can see it returns as a single output, which is only one item. So because we want to generate this in a list where each item is a scene, and we can be able to pass each item into the workflow and be able to generate image for each scene and generate the video and the audio. So that's why we need to use a split out here to be able to split this single output into each individual object, where each object is a scene. So basically here you can see we have this object right here, right? Which has a script and the image, which correspond to the scene 1 here. So we have script, the image, and then here at the bottom, we also have another object, which is scene 2. So we have script and the image. Okay, awesome. So basically this is what we have so far. And what do we do next? Well, here you can see we have our split out. We split out each 10 items for each scene, right? So each item is one scene. And what we do here first is we're gonna first generate the image. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on this, and we're just going to use the OpenAI. So I'm just gonna say OpenAI, and I'm just gonna click OpenAI, and I can be able to click on generate an image. And here you can see I can be able to use a model. So I'm just gonna use GPT image 1 for the model to generate the image, but feel free to play around with different model for the image generation. So here you can see we have the script and the image, right? So we can use this to generate the image. So what we can do is I can click on expression and paste the prompt here. And here you can see basically we have the prompt, and all I have to do is just drag the image prompt that's generated by AI and be able to append it here for the image generation prompt. And you can see we have the subject, we have the settings, we have the mood, we have the visual style, everything else, right? So then what we can do is we can be able to rename this. So I'm just gonna say image generation. So just to test, make sure that it actually works, I'm just gonna click on test step. All right, so now you can see that for image generations, you can see we have some outputs for the data, and you can see that these are all the 10 images that get run. And basically, if we want to look at what the image look like, this is what it looks like. This is the first image, and this is another image. You can see that this is what it looks like, which is pretty cool. So what we can do now is we can use these images, store these images somewhere, and we can be able to use those images and be able to generate the video. Now, if we were to close this, you can see that I get an error for the image generation. And the reason is because when I first ran this, you can see for the first try, I was getting a credential error. And after I fix the credential and I run it again, you can see that I get the image fine. Okay, so when you run this, if you put the right credentials, then it should work. So once you have images, you can see we have 10 items. What we need to do is we need to save this somewhere so that we can be able to reference those images to generate the video. So in that case, what we can do is we can be able to save this in a database like a Supabase. So if we were to search for Supabase, and you can see that there's no way for us to create like a record for the image for files. So in that case, what we can do is we can be able to use a HTTP request. So I'm just gonna select HTTP request here, and here we're just gonna send a post request to the Supabase. And once you're in the Supabase, you just create new projects by clicking on new project here. But since I already have the projects, so I'm just gonna use this project here. And then once you're in the new project here, you just click on storage. And then inside of storage, we're just gonna click on new bucket, and I'm just gonna give a name for this bucket. So I'm just gonna say 3D images. And then we also make sure to turn this on for the public bucket so that we can be able to access those images when we generate the video. So once we toggle this on, we're just gonna click on save. All right, so then once we create our bucket, then what we can do is we can click on the project settings, and then here we're just gonna click on data API, and then we're just gonna copy this project URL here, and then come back to the HTTP request, and here's gonna be the main URL for this one. So I'm just gonna first rename this node. So here you can see I renamed this node to be Supabase image upload, and the goal is to upload the image to the bucket. And then here for the URL, I'm just going to continue add onto this. So it's gonna be /storage/version1/object, and then after the object is going to be the public bucket name. So because inside storage, I named this bucket to be 3D images. So back here, I'm just going to put 3D images. And then after this, we're just going to create a name for the image, append it onto the URL. Now, because we have to make the image to be unique, so there's many ways we can do this. So what we can do is we can be able to use like a timestamp, like a millisecond number that we can be able to add onto this, so that the millisecond is guaranteed to be unique. So every time when we save the image, it's going to give us a unique timestamp for each image. So we can use that to be the name of each image here. And to do so is very simple. You can see that I basically do now.2 milliseconds will convert the datetime now to milliseconds. And then here at the end, I'm just going to add the image, and that's going to be the file name for this image, for each of those images here on the left. And then we also have our credential type. So we're gonna have a predefined credential type. So the credential type here, we're just gonna scroll down and we're just going to select Supabase API. And for the Supabase API, we're using the Supabase API account. And if I were to click this, because I have already set this up, so if you are going to set this up for yourself, if you go to the Supabase, if you were to click on the project settings, and if you were to click on the API keys, this is gonna be the service role. So you can put the service role here. And for the host, you can actually just copy the project ID, be able to append this after the HTTPS : And then once you have this, then also make sure to turn on for the send body. And for the send body here, make sure to also change the n8n binary file, because here you can see they're all binary files. So we need to append the binary files onto here. And then for the input data here, we're just gonna put data because that's the file name. So we're just gonna copy this and put it here. So let's try to test step and see how this works. So it's going to execute the node, and you can see that everything is successful for all 10 items. So if I were to go to my storage and click on 3D images, you can see that I have all those 3 images here, and I can also be able to preview each of those images like what I just showed you. So let's continue on. I'm just going to pin this so that it doesn't re-trigger this node, and I'm also going to deactivate this node just because we have the image generated already, so we don't want to generate the images again. So we're just going to deactivate it for now. But once we are set up for the workflow, you can feel free to activate it. Next step we're gonna do is basically try to generate the video based on the image that we have. So in this case, we're gonna use a tool called Fal.ai. So in that case, let's sign up for this application. Okay, so once we sign up for the account, and basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the Fal.ai Kling v2.1 standard image to video feature, where we can be able to pass the image like this and can be able to generate a video like that. Okay, so you can see the 5-second video. And once you sign up for a free account, you can see that automatically I get like $1. So we can try this and see how this works. And if we were to click on the API, you can see that here we can be able to select the HTTP curl. And here it basically tells us exactly what we can use to call the API to trigger the image to video generation. And up here, you can see that there's also different options for the quality of the image to video generation. So there's master, pro. We're just using the standard to basically try to see how things work. Okay, so now if we were to scroll down, you can see that there's also submit request. So this is going to be the curl request, and this is the URL which we're going to use. So in that case, back to the n8n, I'm just going to create a new node called HTTP request. And because here you can see it says it's a post request, so we're just going to set to post request for the HTTP request. And here we're just going to paste the URL, and that's going to be the URL that we're going to call. And then down here you can see we also have the headers for the authorization. So we're going to say key, and then this is going to be our API key. So here we're just going to change it to a generic credential type. And then for the generic auth type, we're just going to set it to the header auth. And then for the header auth here, we're just going to create a new credential here. So the name here is just going to be authorization. So I'm just going to copy this. And then the value here is going to be key space. And we're just going to attach our API key here. So to find the API key for our account, I'm just going to click on my account here. And I'm just going to click on API keys. So here, all I have to do is just add a new key. And I can be able to give it a name for the key. So it's going to be like 3D video generation. So once I get the key, I can be able to copy this, navigate back to n8n. I'm just going to paste it right here and I basically save it. And here you can see credential successfully created. So then if we were to come back to the documentation on how we can be able to send the request, you can see that we also need to attach the body, the request body. So this is basically the request body right here that we see. So we can just copy this, but basically you can see that it contains the prompts and also the image URL. But you can see here that I have already pasted the prompt and the image URL. The image URL must be the URL that we save in Supabase. So to get the URL, let's come back to Supabase. Let's say if I were to click on one of the image, and what I can do is I can get a URL here, come back to n8n, and I can be able to just paste it here. And just to make sure that this URL actually works, I basically paste the URL into the browser, and here you can see I was able to visit this image on my browser. So this means that the URL works. So then what we can do is we can append the key onto the image URL at the back here. Okay, so I'm just gonna create the expression, drag the key here. And this will basically give us the image URL for each of those images. And here you can see we have the prompt, which is to animate this image with subtle movement, make the motion lifelike, and things like that, right? You can tweak your prompts however you like to make the image to video generation much more smoother. But this is the prompt that I have, and this is going to be our request body. So what we can do is we can be able to send a request and be able to test it to see if it works. Because my account only have $1, so I'm afraid that if I were to run this, I might not have enough credits, because here you can see 5 seconds video will cost $0.25. So $0.25 times 10, which is 10 scenes, is gonna be $2.5. So in that case, we're just gonna add some credits into the account. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some credits into the account so that it works. So here I'm just gonna pay for add additional credits. So here I'm just gonna top off additional $4 and I'm just gonna click on pay. Well, it looks like the minimum credit must be above 10. So I'm just gonna put $10 here instead. So here you can see I basically top off $11, and let's continue testing to see how this works. All right, back to the n8n, and here what I can do is I can be able to run the request. And if we were to close this, you can see we have the request ran and we have 10 items being ran. But if we were to click into this, expand the output, you can see that they're all in a queue, which means that it's still in progress for generating the video. So let's focus on the next thing, which is to generate from text to audio first, and then we can be able to worry about other things all together. And if I were to come back to billing, and you can see that the current balance also changed. So you can see that exactly like I mentioned for the calculation, currently we have spent about $2.5, right? Because we have 10 videos, each video costs 25 cents or $0.25. Then you can see that times 10 is going to be $2.5. But let's move on to the next step, which is once we generate the video, we also want to make sure to generate the audio too. In that case, we can be able to use the speech O2 turbo. So basically you can see the way how this works. If we were to click on playground, and basically you can see that this is the text and this is basically the audio.
Hello world. This is a test of the text-to-speech system.
And there's also can be like additional settings. So for example, if we don't like this one, we can also change it to different. But for testing, we're just gonna stick to the default voice ID, but you feel free to change whatever voice you like on this one. So here to use it, we're just gonna click on the API, select the HTTP curl. And what we can do is we can be able to click on this submit request. That's basically exactly how we can be able to call this API. So we can just copy this, come back to n8n. So first I'm just gonna pin this, and we're just gonna name this to be image to video generation. And I'm just gonna rename this, and here I'm just gonna create a new HTTP request. So this one's gonna be a little different. It's gonna be the text to speech, right? So text to audio, and same thing is gonna be a post request. So we're gonna paste the URL here. And then for the authentication, we can use the generic credential type, and then it's gonna be a header off like we just did. And here we're just gonna use the header off to account 2. And I think I should just change this to be the Fal.ai off, okay? And I'm just gonna save this so that we know what this is. And then we are going to turn on for the send body. So the body here is gonna be using JSON. And inside of our JSON, we're gonna expand this. And here is basically our JSON body. So what we can do is we can be able to replace this part of the text to the text from the screenwriter, right? So here you can see I basically just drag this into here. And you might notice that I also have a replace all from this to this. is because I realized that I get a request error because there could be a situation where the script contains a double quotation. So we need to convert the double quotation to a single quotation so that it doesn't give us the JSON syntax error. So that's just like one of the edge case that we need to cover. So once I did that, I basically run the request. You can see that everything is successful and it's in queue. So what I can do is I can be able to pin this request. And what I also change in the workflow is that I run this simultaneously along with the image generation and the video generation, because you can see here that once we split out the items, we have the script and the video prompts. So we can actually run this at the same time. So you can see that I basically put this on a separate path, and we can merge it together into a single path once we get all the items. All right, so without making this video too long, I have gone ahead and basically categorized it and also complete the automations so that we can just look at the finished product. So basically what we have done so far is to basically have AI to generate the script, right? So we have our scriptwriter, which in this case takes the topic and the reference from the Google Sheets, and it will basically generate the script based on that. And once we've done the scripts, then we also going to generate the images and then the videos, right? And then here you can see we also have the audio generated. So we take the script and then we'll be able to generate the audio for those scenes. But because when we try to send the request, it's going to be in progress or in a queue. So we're just going to wait for 10 seconds or so and be able to wait for the data actually to be fully processed. And once it's processed, then we can be able to fetch the data, in this case, the audio and the video. Once we fetch the audio and the video, we're just going to merge them into one single finished product. And here you can see we have the fetch audio here. Basically, we send a request. This is going to be the request, and this is going to be the audio that's generated. So if I were to copy this.
Meet Leonardo da Vinci, the genius who saw the world in ways most still struggle to fathom.
So you can see that this is the audio that's generated based on the text. And then here we also have the video. So if we were to copy the output for this video, so you can see that this is the video that's generated based on the image that we provide. Awesome. So here you can see once we have all those media files, then we can proceed with section 3, which is to merge the media files into one single video. And the way how we're going to do this is we're going to first merge those 10 items into a 20 item list. Then we're just going to aggregate the data and be able to convert it into a one single video. Basically, you can see we have our videos, and then after the 10th item, we have our audios. So you might be wondering why we do this. Well, the reason is because if we were to prepare for the request body for the Creatomate, which is our video generation, you can see that this is the exact format that we need. So we have the video sources from 1 to 10, and then we also have the video durations, the video speed, and the audio sources and everything. So that's exactly the data we need to basically merge those media files into a single production video. And we're using a tool called Creatomate. So let me show you how this works. Now, here you can see basically this is the Creatomate. You can see that this is the product called Creatomate. And we can use this product to basically create our final product, right? So here you can see we have a template. This is going to be the template that we're going to use. And basically we're just going to click into this. And here you can see I will basically paste the JSON source editor, this JSON data right here, into the description below. So once we have this data, we can be able to use this template by clicking here and clicking on API integration. Once we click on the API integration, you can see that we can be able to copy this curl request and be able to come to n8n and be able to add a node with this HTTP request. So here you can see we have the template ID and the modifications, which is exactly what we had in our n8n. And here you can see I basically send the request. And here you can see we have our output, which is our URL right here. So let's copy this and take a look at and see how it works.
Meet Leonardo da Vinci, the genius who saw the world in ways most still struggle to fathom. What made this Renaissance man a timeless legend? Born in Vinci, Italy, in 1452, young Leonardo absorbed the beauty of nature, forming the foundation of his visionary mind. Apprenticing under master artist Andrea del Verrocchio in Florence, Leonardo flourished in art and technique. His Mona Lisa captivates hearts with her enigmatic smile sparking intrigue for centuries. The magnificent The Last Supper rewrote the rules of perspective in religious art. Serving Duke Ludovico Sforza, he explored beyond art, dabbling in military machines and engineering marvels. Leonardo meticulously documented anatomy, botany, and mechanics in iconic notebooks that still inspire science today. Tragically, many of his visionary ideas remained unrealized, including flying machines sketched centuries ahead of their time. Fast forward to immortality, Salvator Mundi, sold for $450.3 million, is now the world's most expensive painting. His legacy as a master artist, inventor, and thinker embodies humanity's limitless potential.
All right, so pretty much you can see that this is the finished result, what it looks like. So now what we can do is we can be able to add this onto Google Sheets. So here I'm just gonna click on Google Sheets, and here we can just click on update row in Google Sheets, and here we're just gonna select the documents, and then here we're just gonna select the column to match, which is by the row number. So here we're just going to put the row number, which is row number 2, and then we also have our topic, right? We also have our reference, and then here for the output, we're just going to paste the Creatomate, the URL, and then for the output here, we're just gonna say finished. Okay, and of course I basically put it in the wrong order, so I fixed that, and here finish is in the status inputs, and then this is going to be the output inputs. So we're just going to trigger another new request and basically see how this works. So basically you can see I have unpinned all the data, and what we can do now is we can be able to trigger the workflow and see how this works. So here, if I were to come back to the Google Sheets, you can see that we have marked this as finished, and then we have our output here for the data. The next record we're going to run is going to be this one. So let's try to trigger the workflow and see how this works. So here, make sure to click on save and then click on test workflow. So right away, you can see that it starts to generate the script. It starts to crawl the data from the reference. And once the data is crawled, you can see here that it's fully crawled. It starts to generate the script. Okay, so now you can see that it starts to generate the images now. And let's wait for a bit until the image is fully generated. All right, so finally the image generation is completed, and it's going to save the images onto Supabase. Then here we're going to basically do the image to video generations. Okay, and then once we generate the video and the audio, it's going to pass to the stage 3. And then here you can see it's going to send the request to the Creatomate to generate the video. And then eventually it's going to add the records onto Google Sheets. So back to Google Sheets, you can see we have one that's finished, and here is basically the video file. So let's copy this. All right, so here you can see this is the end result. So let's play this and see how this works.
Picture the late 19th century a storm rages. Lightning cracks the air, and one man sees the future of electricity in its dazzling glow. That man? Nikola Tesla. Born in 1856 in modern-day Croatia, Tesla was drawn to science like a moth to a flame, building his first inventions as a curious 10-year-old. He immigrated to the United States in 1884, stepping into the turbulent world of Thomas Edison and the famous War of Currents. Tesla developed alternating current, AC, a revolutionary system far more effective than Edison's direct current, DC. Despite the brilliance of AC, Edison launched a smear campaign, even staging public electrocutions of animals to discredit Tesla. But Tesla's genius won. The 1893 Chicago World's Fair radiated light for the first time in history, powered by his AC system. From wireless energy to remote controls, Tesla invented technologies decades ahead of his time. But brilliance came at a cost. Tesla lived simply, lost investments, and died penniless in 1943. Today, he's remembered as the father of modern electricity, a true pioneer who lit up the world. For every flickering bulb and electric hum, the legacy of Nikola Tesla lives on, electrifying the spirit of innovation.
Awesome. So pretty much you can see that we're able to generate a full video like this using AI automations. And of course, there's so many things that we can be able to change in the workflow. For example, we can change the topics, the reference to be something that's different from the public figures. Or if you're a business owner, you're selling a product or a service, you can also be able to put your product or your service page and be able to let the AI to generate a script and be able to generate a video with this workflow. You can also change the resolutions, the models for better performance or better visuals for the videos. And then in terms of the audios, you can also change the voice, right? Like I showed you earlier. And for the scenes, you can also be able to extend to more scenes, like 20 scenes or even more scenes. And then for the Creatomate, all you have to do is just change the template and it should be able to match with the multiple scenes that you have, right? So pretty much you can see that there's a lot of things we can extend from this workflow. So pretty much that's it for this video. Hopefully you found value in this video. If you do, please make sure to like this video, subscribe for more content like this. And if you have any questions or any future video ideas, please comment down below. And with that being said, I will see you in this video.